Writing stories that will leave an impact on someone takes a lot of deep thinking. And for me, I go on a bunch of night walks, I stare into space, and that helps me receive a lot of intuitions and downloads on what I should write. And it takes a lot of observation. So when I write my stories, I observe a lot. And what I notice with people, and I'm sure you probably noticed this too, and you probably notice this within yourself because it always starts from thyself and then you observe other people. And what I find oftentimes is that we tend to stuff away our shadows. For me, though, I live in my shadows. I talk to my shadows every day. So, like, I'm not as bad with that. But I find with a lot of people, they oftentimes stuff all the things that is what you would consider like shadow stuff. They just stuff it away and they move on. And oftentimes it comes out in certain like ways. Say, like, you're at a dinner party or something and somebody just spazzes out of nowhere. It could be the most littlest things that would tick somebody off. And that's that shadow coming up. So I write a lot of dark, esoteric, urban fiction style. That's how I write. And I write a lot of dark philosophy because I find you get a lot of wisdom out of dark philosophy. And there's a lot of truth in dark philosophy because that's where all the hidden stuff is. Um, you don't get that much from like writing light and fluffy work. I mean, you can leave an impact, but oftentimes I find the books that have such deep stuff in it, things that are taboo, they usually do good. And with my first book that I did so far, I have written a darker version of a Cinderella story. And I find the people that read my book so far, they absolutely have enjoyed my work. And this is what I got from going on my night walks, staring into space, and observing people. And I think this is one of the keys to writing a story that will leave an impact on people. Because people tend to stuff away a lot of their issues and problems, I find in order to tap into that, because what I like to do is I like to write in a way that brings up those shadows in people. But since I'm writing on a collective level, I have to create characters that is well versed, and I feel like a lot of people can resonate on some levels with these characters that I'm writing because we all felt pain, we all felt fear, we all felt love and stuff like that. We just all experienced it in certain ways. So I'm like, okay, how can I write scenarios where people can all understand what I'm trying to get out for them to feel it in their shadows and their subconscious. And I find in order to tap into that, you got to go back in the beginning. So when I talk to people and I try to bring out certain things in them, I find that I have to go back to the beginning of how people feel. Because oftentimes when I ask a simple question like, what are your goals? Surprisingly, a lot of people that I've spoken to, they look at me like, what do you mean by goals? People don't even have goals nowadays. That's how bad it is. So I think I hear music. I hope I don't get copyrighted for this. Okay, I'm back. So when it comes to tapping into people's subconscious, bringing up those shadows. When I talk to people, I find that I have to take it back to the beginning of what it is, the things that they like and stuff like that. What do they think about certain things? Because we have been conditioned to think a certain way within music, within movies, shows, the society, whatever. I find that oftentimes people are not thinking authentic, authentic, authentically wise. If I'm saying it right, people aren't thinking on that authentic level because what they're thinking on is on that program level. What they see on TV, movies, what they hear in music, society, group settings, following the herd, they're all thinking on some thought process that's not even their own. They've been programmed to think a certain way. So I have to take it back to the beginning of who they are at the core. And it's wild how when I talk to people, they don't even have certain goals. They don't even know what I mean by that when I say, so what are your goals? Stuff like that. That's how far gone people are. And you don't have to have major goals, right? You don't have to have major goals, but just, maybe like a weekly goal or something, or a hobby or whatever. People don't even have that. And I'm not judging, I'm just observing. So I take that and I put it all into my work. And I find when I start my characters on a fool's journey, that's where people tend to usually resonate with. So I I'm pretty spiritual, and I use the Fool's card very symbolically into my writing. And I find when I write from a fool's journey type of mindset, people can resonate with it. And it makes sense because we all come into this world knowing nothing. We still don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. And I'm not going to pretend that I know everything because I don't. We don't know. All we know is that we're on a spinning rock somewhere in the universe. Hey, we don't know. So we come into this world not knowing anything, and then from there we get conditioned on certain things. So, for instance, with my book, my Cinderella story, the darker version that I have written, I write from a frame of her being confused on certain things. There's certain things about herself that she does not understand. Um, she's a bit off. There's something about her that's a bit off. And how I've written this in a way where as people are reading each chapter, they're going on a journey with the character because it's not so revealing. The plots are not so revealing. Like with my main character, Cinderella, there is something off about her. At 12 midnight, she blacks out and goes crazy. She gets headaches from the sun. So she doesn't do well in daylight. She does well at nighttime, but at 12 midnight, she goes crazy. She often prefers to eat animals while they're alive. Her stepmother throws her rats to eat, and she prefers that over regular food. She tolerates regular food. So there's certain things about her that's pretty twisted, and I don't reveal it right away. So as people are reading my book, they're pretty confused, and I've gotten that feedback, but they enjoy it. They enjoy it. They're on a journey. And I've gotten this concept from taking it back to the beginning where we're going through life pretty confused, trying to figure things out. So my main character is trying to figure what's going on with herself, why she is the way that she is. So, yes, I find when you write from that perspective, people tend to enjoy the work a bit more. I notice with certain books, and I'm not trying to throw shade. I think it's very distasteful as an author to throw shade on other people's works. But hey, I have read some books where it's pretty obvious. The plot is pretty obvious. Everything's pretty obvious. And therefore, I don't really enjoy the book as much. But when I read books that the plots are very good and you don't know what's going to happen next, or there's something about the character that you just can't figure out, it makes you want to stick around and read more to find out what happened or what's going to happen. So I use that in my writing, starting from the fool's journey, because we all don't know nothing, and figuring it out. That's a part of our journey. So I like to start from there. And that took a lot of observation because I, from talking to a lot of people and seeing how programmed everyone is, even me to a certain degree, I'm sure, but to see how programmed everybody is from the music that they listen to, group settings, society, movie, shows, it's just like, well, who are you? And people can't answer that. And it's pretty wild. So I've written a character who doesn't know herself that well with all the things that she's going through. So to go on this journey and hear her thoughts and watch everything unfold and how she figures everything out about herself, people can resonate with that because subconsciously we're all trying to figure out ourselves. And that's the real tea. So as I close this out, and since I have my deck on me, I might as well pull a card and see what's the message for this video. Let's see. Okay. Okay. This is, oh wait, gotta have my mic. So this is my first time really pulling out a card on camera, and I feel really silly with my eyes being shut and all. But this is the card that I pulled. So I pulled, I don't know if you can see it, and I have the camera flipped. The Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands represents the mother, expressive, fiery, a natural leader, social, sexual, strong, energetic, independence, courage, determination, confidence. This right here, and Aries represents this card. It's a fire card, the sun. And on the flip side, it can also mean sense of self, ruthless, ambition, jealousy, insecurity, selfishness, introvert, dramatic, demanding, burnout. But on a positive level, because that's how I'm going to keep it, I find this message very telling especially what I just talked about in this video of people not knowing who they are and have been programmed to think a certain way. And in order to tap into that authentic self, you got to go back to the beginning. You got to go on that fool's journey. And the fool's journey, it takes confidence. It takes confidence because people nowadays, or throughout time, people act like they know it all. They know everything. We don't know everything. And in order to be that leader, tapping into the self. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's about the self. It's about um, being that leader. It's about fighting for what you're fighting for. Is that beginner energy, stepping into the world, ready to conquer everything, right? And since it's the first sign, it's also a representation of the fool, ready to conquer it all. Like you just so I think we have to step into that more, have that courage, have that energy, um, and being okay with feeling like the fool, feeling a bit silly. Um, People nowadays, they don't want to look silly. They don't want to look like the fool. They don't want to embarrass themselves. So they rather do what everybody else is doing, but you'll never know who you are if you keep following the herd. So this is how I like to write. I like to write from a fool's perspective, the beginner's journey, and bringing out all that dark philosophy. And yes, it's a lot of deep thinking, but I love what I do. And I love how when people read my work, they come back and ask me questions. That's how I know I did a good job. When you have people come back and ask you questions and they're ready for the next book, you know you did a good job and you're building a fan base also. So, as from writer to writer, if you're somebody who's writing, think about certain things that I said in this video and see if you have applied that into your work. And if not, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. This is a fool's journey. Okay. We're all learning here. And that's what life is all about.